It's been 10 years since we got to see Sinbon Sakura from Byakuya in the anime for Bleach. It's crazy how chilling, mesmerizing, and beautiful this scene still is to this day. And I think we can all agree, anytime we see Byakuya use his Bankai, it's a beautiful scene. Seeing his blades turn into Sakura petals as they dissolve, it's just something so beautiful in motion. Words cannot even begin to describe just how good this usually looks in anime and in the manga, and I think that it is easily one of the most iconic moments throughout Bleach. Besides, let's say, Getsuga Tensho from Ichigo, or saying Bankai, I think anyone that knows anything about Bleach probably will recognize, Byakuya and, Sinbon Sakura, because of just how it looks and appears within the show. And I think what makes this scene really emotional, and it really hammers in the theme of what this episode is trying to do, like give despair and depression, was that after 10 years of waiting for new Bleach footage, anime only's waiting, or even manga readers waiting, we see these iconic Bankais appear once again. We get to see our captains go in with their Bankais after so long. And as soon as they do, it is ripped from them. It is completely stolen. And it really just hammers in what the episode is trying to convey to its audience. That the Shinigami are probably not going to win. Because that is definitely the theme of this episode, especially towards the end of the episode when Ichigo gets locked inside and he can't even go to Soul Society. It really just shows everything is stacked against him. There is just, at this point in time, no way Soul Society is going to win, or the Shinigami is going to win. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the differences that this is doing in comparison to the Aizen stuff. So, if you recall, it's been a long time, and if you forgot some details, do not worry. I've definitely forgotten some details myself. But if you recall, when Aizen was having a fight against all the captains, well, not even all the captains, because we gotta remember, at that time period, there was a bunch of captains, like in, the Hollow Realm, Hoi Mundo, I can never pronounce that right, but basically they were in, where the Hollows are, where the Arankar and the Espad and all that, where Aizen had his kind of base for a while. We had Ichigo and all them there, and some of the captains were there as well, like, Byakuya was there as well. And when Aizen came to kind of settle the deal with Soul Society and all of that, we had a lot of preparation from the Shinigami. For instance, Yamamoto had preparation. All of the captains that was basically there were prepared for Aizen. They set the home field, the turf, everything to be able to fight Aizen. They had enough time to, prepare for a fight. And even though they did prepare, they did technically lose in the end against Aizen. Aizen beat the crap out of them, but we gotta remember that not all the captains were technically there at that time. So there is a lot of things to factor into that, and why Aizen technically won in the end. But even still, regardless if Aizen would have won against all the captains or not, the overall theme of that fight was very different. The Shinigami definitely had time to prepare. And they definitely had time to prepare for Ichigo to arrive. And they did. They managed to stall long enough for him to actually arrive. And so we fast forward 10 years, with real time, and we come to this. It's very clear that the Shinigami, they did not have time to prepare. They were told that there would be a war very soon between the Quincies and the Shinigami, and Soul Society would basically be destroyed, and they literally got their home turf invaded out of nowhere, and a bunch of people that are already iconic characters like Kira is dead. And it shows just how bad the situation is, that at this point in time, there is no way for the Shinigami to win. And the reason why it became even more desperate and, chilling is because you have characters like, Byakuya, where he has to, use Sinbon Sakura and his Bankai, and a bunch of other captains have to, use their Bankais, and it's clear that if they don't use their Bankais, they're gonna lose. I mean, it's very obvious. And so, when these Bankais are stolen, not sealed, but stolen, that's a huge difference, and I'll talk about that in a second. When they are stolen, it shows that the greatest weapon that the Shinigami have cannot even be used. Even some of the captains with their Bankais that we have not seen, it's clear that they will not be able to use them, or they risk them being stolen. There is basically a limiter put on their power. They cannot use the full extent of their power, or it is stolen right in front of them. And so that's scary. And it shows that right now, at this point in time, just looking at the whole situation, the Shinigami are not going to win. Because Ichigo is not going to arrive. He's been sealed off, we see at the end. The whole gate, at the end, we got Urahara, he was kind of taken back and shot in the back, and it just, everything about the scene, it shows that Ichigo's not going to arrive in time. And it's really just setting up for a very dark beginning for this very long final arc. And I want to talk about that. If you haven't noticed, if you're an anime only, and don't worry, no spoilers, but it's been very obvious that the Thousand Year Blood War, this arc, that's the name of it, is very dark. I mean, we've had a lot of characters that are iconic, technically, die. We have seen a lot of dark themes within this arc, and Bleach has had dark themes. I'm not saying it hasn't, but we have definitely seen a lot of dark things happen in just these 4 episodes, and it really is painting a picture, this very bleak picture, that this is the finale. And you gotta remember something, you gotta keep this in your mind. When you think of a final arc within a story, people can die. That's the truth. Especially in a shonen. Characters can die. Iconic characters can just drop left and right because it is the final arc. It is the final fight of the story. So that is something to keep in mind. And there's a lot of stakes. There's a lot of stakes, and you feel that, especially with this episode. You could just feel the despair of the Shinigami, especially when they have to call Ichigo to come and help them. That just says enough about the situation. They legitimately have to call Ichigo, like, hey, Kurosaki Ichigo, you need to get over here. You need to help us. They're having to resort to something like that. That just says enough. But, let's talk about a few other things. One thing that's really interesting about this episode is I like this Yamamoto scene. And I've been talking about him consistently throughout these episodes because I feel like it's very powerful. With these very few scenes he's had with the return of the anime, there's some very powerful moments with his character with no lines even being said. It just shows the overwhelming might he has as a character and the emotion that can be conveyed just through art alone. And that is honestly just amazing. Like, honestly, when you see this scene where, Yamamoto's just appearing over the battlefield, he's like a king, sitting on top of his throne in his tower, and his tower has been catapulted to death. I mean, literally the destruction of his room right here. I mean, look at this. And when you see that, he's looking down at his kingdom burning before his eyes, people screaming in the streets, dying in front of him. He doesn't know what to do. He's at this point in time, he has to remain strong and vigilant, because if he cowers and bows down, nobody else is going to follow him. And it's just a very depressing moment. When you see this whole scene speaks a lot about his character. He's had this quelled small flame burning inside of him since episode 2, when he saw someone he cared about die. Like, it's just been building within him. And when you see this, it's just like, will he be able to hold off from going in anytime soon? Or will he be forced to take matters into his own hands? Because here's the thing. At this point in time, it's very clear that the Shinigami, they're losing. And the king for the Quincies is not even there. That says a lot. He's not even on the battlefield. And so, if Yamamoto was to, let's say, enter the battlefield, the king of the Quincies probably would also enter the battlefield. And I think that says enough. The tides are already bad for the Shinigami, but if the king has to get into play for the Shinigami, then obviously the king for the Quincies is going to get into play. But it's clear the disparity there. Unless Yamamoto's cooking up something really fierce, it's clear that who's going to win and who's going to lose. That's all I'm trying to say. And I love the emotion and vibe and theme that this entire episode gives. It's really, really good. And I think that just Tite Kubo did a good job with this, but also the animators and everyone working on this have really done a good job of presenting the themes and vibes that Kubo is trying to present in his manga. Now, let's talk about a few things. I really want to talk about the art and animation for a second, because there is a lot of fluid moments here, like, Bombi here. I think that this is just absolutely a beautiful scene. We got so many good scenes. There is honestly just a lot of good movement within this episode, and I know there was a lot of complaints with episode 3. I saw people complaining about episode 3, and personally, I didn't think episode 3 was that bad. People just complaining for the sake of complaining, and look, I know it wasn't perfect. Nothing is perfect. That's my opinion on anything. But it's just like, holy crap. Episode 3 last week wasn't bad. It wasn't. But anyways, this episode really has a lot of good art and animation. There's a lot of beautiful movement. A lot of the characters stay on model, which I think that's some people's problems they actually have had with some of the episodes, which that one I can kind of get behind. There has been some off models with some of the characters here and there, but the characters stay relatively on model throughout this episode. And also we get a lot of introductions to the different, Quincies and kind of some of their abilities or how scary they are. Like, oh my, this guy right here, I want to talk about him, okay? I can't pronounce his name to save my life. Like, Asnodt, or I can't pronounce his name. Forgive me. But, basically, I love just the presence this man is always giving off. When I remember reading the manga, and I read, like, the panels and, the stuff that Tite Kubo put in the manga, I remember it's like, holy crap, this guy's ominous. Like, he is a really ominous-looking character. He looks edgy, obviously, but he's a very ominous character, because he's a man of basically no words. He doesn't really speak at all. And so when you see his just very tone and vibe against Renji and, Byakuya and all that, it's just like, this guy is kind of scary. He's just not even talking. He doesn't care. And it just, like, it looks like he's getting more and more excited as he continues to fight, and it's just like, what's he really capable of? Like, what's his transformation and stuff gonna look like? It's really eerie when you just see this scene with him. It's like, what's about to happen to, Byakuya in the upcoming episode, since his Bankai was, stolen, which I guess that's a good segue to talk about. Bankai, stolen. So, till this episode, we were assuming that Bankais were sealed. And sealed and stolen are completely different terms. And I think anyone that understands those terms will definitely key in on what that means. Sealed means just, you can't use it. Like, your power's sealed, okay? You can't use the power anymore. Okay. Stolen means that the Bankai legitimately has been stolen from them, and it is in something else. Basically, what that implies is that these little devices that, the Quincies are using and stealing the, the Bankai in, it now houses the very essence of the Zanpakuto, the Bankais. And it makes you wonder, if it's been stolen, can they use it? That is what comes to mind, because they have these little devices that are able to do that. So yeah, that is food for thought, especially with this episode, because that is a key difference between sealed and stolen. That is so big that it makes you wonder, are we going to get to see Sinbon Zakura used against Byakuya? Like, imagine if that was. Like, that would be scary. So yeah, overall, I think that this Bleach episode was great. One thing that does need to be commented on, though, is this intro. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are probably going to complain about this intro, and I want to take a few moments to talk about this before, I wrap up the video. This intro is about 3 minutes long. It's quite an intro for only 4 episodes in, but if I had to take a guess of why the intro was like this, it's probably because they wanted to end the episode literally right here. They wanted to end this episode where Ichigo is sealed and can't really go and help out Soul Society. I'm assuming that's why they put that intro there, to end the episode here. That was the only reason it was done, was to kind of waste time to have the episode in here instead of going through content too quickly. That's my only guess. I could be wrong, but that's my assumption. But overall, I think that, yeah, I think that this is a great episode. A lot of good shots. Oh, man, look at this image. But, yeah, just, tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about, this week's episode of Bleach. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Be honest in the comments below. I am legitimately curious to see how you all felt about it. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.